Do you need a vegetarian main dish for your holiday table? This vegetable Wellington is for you. It marries together all the vegetables of the season in a flaky puff pastry crust that those vegetarians and meat eaters alike are all gonna love. I'm Trace Barnett and welcome to Garden Party. Today I am peeling some carrots that are going to be a main ingredient in our vegetable Wellington. I know a vegetable Wellington sounds a little bit ostentatious and hard to make, but it's absolutely not at all. Once you get everything kind of married together and cooked, it's just basically assembling your components together. So I have one medium carrot that I have just taken the peels off into my scrap bowl here. It is the holidays and the chickens are going to need a little bit of this and that too. I'm going to take the skins off of our parsnips here. You can probably see a trend in all of my fall and winter cooking. I basically have the same root vegetables in rotation. It's amazing what all you can do with simple ingredients. We have a medium sweet potato, and I'm going to remove the peel on that too. I'm also going to skin a beet too. I'm just going to pull that back. I keep my beet separate from everything else just until I stir it together and throw these into the oven, just simply because I don't want any of the color bleeding together. And what's great about the beet is it's going to give us that really pretty holiday flair that we want. I'm going to take our scrap bowl here, move it to the side, and I'm going to take 2 onions and I'm just going to remove the skins. Take my onions and I'm just going to do about 1/2 inch slices here that will break apart later. So these are going to become a caramelized onion layer between our mushroom and our vegetables. Kind of that intermediate place where just tons of flavor resides. I'm going to take just a bell pepper here, and you can use any color bell pepper you want. So if you're not using a red beet, then maybe use a red bell pepper just to kind of throw in some color. So the traditional Wellington is made out of beef, and it's a little bit harder to make and to control than the vegetable Wellington too, which is another plus on why you should make this vegetable one. So I'm going to throw our bell pepper directly into our food processor here. And if you don't have a food processor, simply just make sure that you dice all of your vegetables up in a uniform fashion. The whole key to a successful Wellington is that you want everything to cook evenly. You don't want an excess of water, and you don't want too dry vegetables or vegetables that may in fact be hard. So I'm going to remove the ends of our carrots and parsnips here, and I'm just going to loosely chop these two just like that. I'm going to take that and I'm going to take those a little bit smaller down. You just don't want anything to interfere when you're working with your food processor that might make pieces smaller or larger. So I'm just going to put these in our food processor, and I'm just going to pulse those, and keep a close eye on your food processor. We don't want to pulse those to the point where they're just almost just tiny, tiny pieces. And we don't want them to be large either. I'm gonna go one more time, one more pulse. This is the perfect consistency here. I'm gonna pour those in a cast iron skillet. You can also do this on a sheet pan as well. Whatever you decide to do your vegetables in, just be sure that it's large enough that the vegetables can lay on a single layer. We don't want them to be so piled up on top of each other that they create steam and create residual water. So just make sure your dish is large enough. I'm gonna come back, I have not forgot about our beet here. I'm gonna come back and I'm just gonna cut it into 4ths. And I'm gonna throw it in our food processor. Throw that in. We saved it to last again so the beet did not bleed onto everything. Roll that beautiful beet footage. And I'm gonna pour the beets just into our cast iron there, and I'm gonna leave those on top before I stir. I am going to drizzle just a couple tablespoons of olive oil directly on our beautiful veg here. Don't oversaturate, because again, that would hinder in the caramelization. And that's another great thing about cast iron, is it really gives us that really good caramelization that we want. Sprinkle with some salt and pepper to taste. A little bit of garlic powder, because if you're from the South, I reckon we put that on everything. And I'm also gonna sprinkle a little bit of smoked paprika in here too, just to give us that little smoky flavor. So when you bite into your Wellington, you're like, what is that? Give it a good stir. I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees. I'm gonna pop these in and we're going to cook those 30 to 35 minutes, just until they are starting to brown and caramelize, smell really good, and they're gonna taste even better. So we got our nice even layer there. And again, that's really key. Let's go to the oven. You know, I think just like having a Wellington on your table, whether it's meat or vegetable, I think it just makes people feel like they're just elevated a bit. Like a Wellington, which was invented by a Duke, you know, just kind of rolls out the red carpet for anyone. I mean, just the word Wellington, or anything English for that matter, I think just like takes you to a whole nother posh level. Even if you're posh or not, because I'm definitely not. Moving on, let's get to the most important part, the shrooms. So you can use any kind of mushrooms you want for this dish. Button mushrooms, cremini mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, baby bella mushrooms. Any mushroom that's in your local supermarket is great for this. You don't have to be fancy at all. I've took a damp rag and just cleaned these mushrooms nicely and just let them air dry on a cloth. And I'm gonna take my knife and I'm just gonna like cut those directly in half. You don't want to throw your mushrooms into the food processor whole. It's just gonna impede the pulsing process. And that sounded really smart. I don't even know how I got that out. And you need 8 ounces of mushrooms. This is one of those dishes also, the Wellington, that even if you are having a large crowd, I would not suggest doubling or tripling it. Simply just make another one. You don't want to overload your puff pastry. So throw those in. I've got 2 shallots here that I'm just gonna half and throw those into the food processor too. I'm gonna pulse our mushrooms to the same consistency as our vegetables. I can see we need to go just a little bit more here. Sounds like my neighbor's car crank in the winter. These mushrooms look perfect. I'm just gonna let those hang out in there until we are ready to go over to the stove. All right, next in our Wellington lineup is our next layer and final layer of shrooms. So I'm using full-size portobello mushrooms for this. And what we essentially want is we want a layer of our roasted vegetables on bottom. I want our juices to soak down into those roasted vegetables. We'll then have a layer of caramelized onion topped with a layer of whole portobello mushrooms. So when you slice into it, you see all these defined layers, which is what a Wellington is all about. So when you're dealing with portobello mushrooms, I know a lot of people go in and they just like rip the stem directly off. A lot of times you will damage the top of the mushroom. So I just like to take a little paring knife and just cut that stem right off and then kind of pull it with my hand there. And you can see that this mushroom has this lip that kind of curls in. I'll pull that out so we can take a better look. So we don't want to plop this into our skillet just like this, because what that's gonna do is it's gonna cause a little steam to build up here and it's gonna make it soggy. It's just not really gonna be good. So again, with our paring knife, I'm just gonna take it and I'm just gonna run it around the lip of our mushroom here. It's just gonna sit perfectly in our skillet just like that. So I'm gonna reserve all of our trimmings from our mushroom as well as our stems because they are wonderful in making stock. I'm gonna take a little bit of olive oil and I'm just going to brush our portobellos with that. Not a lot, just enough to coat them on both sides. I'm gonna season those with just a little bit of salt and pepper. Have a little bit of flavor. I like to flavor every little component of a dish because I just think those little bit of details matter. It really matters in the end, flavor. And all right, now let's head to the stove, see where the magic's gonna happen. I'm not gonna go down the stairs this time. My knees can't take it. We've got all of our accoutrement chopped up and now we're at the stovetop. I just pulled out our roasted vegetables from the oven and I'm just about to remove our portobello mushrooms from our skillet here and place them on a wire rack just to remove any residual water. That one's gonna try to run away. Most stuff that tastes good does. I'm gonna swap our pans around here. In this skillet here, I have our 2 onions that I have just been caramelizing and just a little bit of butter. If you are making this full vegan, you can totally use a butter alternative here. Now, I'm gonna show you a little trick with my caramelized onions. So, to really pull out and get that good caramelization in our onions, I always throw in a little residual sugar. But instead of just sprinkling them with granulated sugar, I like to pour in just a little bit of apple juice. So that apple flavor will really come through in the onions, and then the sugar is gonna do its part for really browning them up. We're almost done with these onions here, and you know, when you're caramelizing onions, don't rush it. Take your time, smell the onions, and once they start getting that good golden color, I like to throw in just a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and that's gonna really deglaze our pan, and it's gonna pull all that onion flavor up off the bottom and into the dish. Just gonna turn those off there. And I'm gonna take these off the heat and just set them to the side. And so in our same pan that I just cooked our portobello mushrooms, I am going to put our mushroom mixture from our food processor. Now, when you're cooking mushrooms, there is a couple stages to look for. I'm gonna cook these over medium-high heat, and the first thing that you'll notice when your mushrooms start to cook is there will be a lot of residual liquid that comes out. The liquid will start to cook and it almost looks soup-like. And then at the very end, we'll know that our mushrooms are done when we smell, might help if I put the eye back on, but we will know that our mushrooms are done at the end because they will have that wonderful nutty smell that is just so unique to mushrooms. I'm gonna put a little bit of chopped rosemary in there, fresh rosemary, and a little bit of chopped fresh parsley. If you have fresh, good thyme on hand, use thyme. Use all your favorite herbs that you want. You can never really have too much herb flavor. I'm also gonna add just a tiny bit of soy sauce and a little bit of white wine. And again, that wine is really gonna pull those flavors up off the pan. I typically don't use a port or a red wine here, which I know is so typical of mushrooms, but I really don't want it to discolor my puff pastry. I'm gonna turn my heat up just ever so slightly, and I'm just gonna cook this down until everything thickens, marries together, and you can really smell the mushrooms. Our mushrooms are nutty and the aroma is wafting up from the pan. I'm gonna just slide those off the heat. And now's the perfect time to say that if you're in the throes of holiday cooking and prepping for your meals, take these, store them in plastic containers in your refrigerator 2 to 3 days in advance, and they'll be ready to go, perfect temperature to assemble your Wellington when the time comes. Now it's time to assemble our Wellington. I have taken all of our warm components that we just cooked on the stove here, our vegetables and mushrooms and onions, and I have let those cool completely. This is the key. So whenever you're making anything like a Wellington or puff pastry, never put anything warm directly into it. It's gonna cause that to just become gummy, come apart. You're not gonna be able to fold it over. It's never gonna work. So I've popped these into the refrigerator. I kind of planned ahead and had a little bit of time. If you don't have time to plan, pop those in the fridge. Just put this in a stainless steel bowl and just drop it into an ice bath. Just don't let any of the water go into your filling, and that should be sufficient. I'm gonna put about 1/4 cup handful of toasted walnuts into our vegetable mixture, just like so. And now comes the puff pastry. And I know a lot of people, if you haven't messed with puff pastry or cooked with it before, it can sound a little daunting, but you can buy puff pastry that's already rolled out for you and in parchment paper. I've never made homemade puff pastry, and I never will. So roll that out, and it comes in a standard 9x14 square, which is actually perfect for our Wellington. This recipe serves 6 to 8. So this is actually our top side here. So we're gonna be assembling it upside down almost. And I'm gonna start with our mushroom layer. This is that really good duclet that we made earlier that is essentially just mushrooms, herbs, wine, little balsamic, and shallot. You want to put a thin layer of this right in the middle of your puff pastry here. You want to reserve probably about 1/2 inch around your filling here in the middle. And next, I'm going to add our caramelized onion. So do a layer of caramelized onion just across this mushroom layer here. This is going to be hard to assemble this without taking bites all the time because it just smells so good. Just like that. And then I'm going to take our portobello mushrooms that are full size, and I'm going to layer those down the middle. Now, depending on the size of your portobello mushrooms and your level of love, you can add 4, or depending on how large they are, just make sure they run the length there. Mine do not, because I don't have an extra one. We ate it. And now I'm going to add our layer of roasted vegetables. I'm adding my roasted vegetables here on the end because I'm wanting all of that residual juice and flavor from the mushrooms to seep down into the vegetables there. One last layer of those. And I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to just kind of simply form this just like that. It's almost like making a meatloaf. I'm gonna wash my hands here. Clean hands are important. You don't want to start folding your puff pastry with all of that on there. We're back with our clean digits here, and now is the time to dive in the puff pastry. And puff pastry is easy to work with. It's very stretchy, and it folds over really nicely. So I'm gonna take our side here and I'm just gonna fold that off the parchment paper and about halfway over our mixture here. I have taken 2 eggs and just beaten those with a fork. And I'm going to, it's almost just like painting or sealing a package. Coat that really well with our egg wash. It's gonna act like our glue and our binder as we create our masterpiece here. Now, if you find yourself pulling apart your dough, it's probably because your puff pastry has gotten a little too warm. If that's the case, just immediately take this whole thing and pop it in the fridge. Just like that, let it stay, let it get cool again, and then it's not gonna come apart. Also, if you have a part that tears, simply just kind of work on it and you can actually smush that back together. Puff pastry is really sticky too. And the rule of thumb usually is the less you handle it, the better. I'm gonna take another bit of our egg wash and just run it just like so. And now comes the ends. I'm gonna take our ends and just fold those over. Again, I'm gonna seal that with our delicious egg wash. I seal my ends very simply, just like a package. Grab our pan and I'm gonna flip our Wellington over. Just like that. So I'm glad this is doing this actually. Do you see where our Wellington is kind of starting to stick to our parchment paper? I'm gonna show you our technique to fix that. I'm gonna take my parchment and I'm just gonna lightly put that onto our Wellington and I'm gonna pop it in the fridge. I'm gonna take the elevator this time because I don't wanna deal with the stairs. We are back with our Wellington. Got a little sticky on us there. Got the oven going. And you can see here that the Wellington looks just perfect. Nice, came right off the parchment paper. I'm gonna top our Wellington here with just a little bit more of our egg mixture. And what the egg mixture does is it's going to give us that really nice brown crispy crust. And into a 400-degree oven we go for around 35 to 40 minutes. Be sure and set your kitchen timer. Don't run around and start some other stuff. Keep an eye on this Wellington because once it has puffed up, is brown and crispy, it's ready to come out of the oven. Our Wellington is out of the oven and I have let this rest for at least 10 minutes. You don't ever want to take your Wellington directly out of the oven and cut right into it because everything just needs time to mellow out in there. So this one's cooled sufficiently and now let's garnish it. I mean, look how beautiful that is already. That's definitely a showstopper. No one's even gonna know it's vegetarian. A little bit of garnish of rosemary there. And I'm also just gonna take some of our toasted walnuts. Surround our Wellington with that. You know, that was the thing about Wellingtons. They're supposed to be ostentatious, you know, good enough for a duke. You can use any kind of nut you want, pecans, walnuts, anything that you might have or that's in season. I just really love walnuts this time of year. I'm gonna surround our Wellington with just a little bit of color, just for presentation purposes only. A little more rosemary. Can never have enough. And just for a little bit more pop of color, I'm gonna add just a little bit of cranberries. Cranberries are like the garnish that keeps on giving. Bright color, beautiful. Take them and cook with them later. And they last forever. Perfect for a holiday centerpiece, like me. Sprinkle just a little bit on top, and there you have it. The perfect showstopper for vegetarian and meat eaters alike. As much as I hate to do it, it's time to cut into this masterpiece. I'm gonna remove our garnish here, and using a serrated knife right here on the end, I'm gonna carefully saw into that. And you want to just simple motions, just like that, all the way to the bottom. And there you have it. You can see all of our layers of mushrooms, roasted vegetables, and caramelized onions. And there are a variety of sauces that you can put on this, and I've whipped up our little balsamic glaze, and I'm just gonna pour that on top. Yum. I didn't have a fork. So excited, I almost just busted it. And here we go. Let's try our vegetarian showstopper. I think it's gonna be a winner. Winner, no chicken dinner. You can't tell me a piece of beef could be any better. Happy holidays from our Wellington to yours. It's so good. I can't wait for y'all to try it. Can't wait to talk either while I chew. Happy holidays. I ain't got nothing more to say. That sounded like Sling Blade. Y'all, if someone throw something at me when I say perfect, please. It's like old people knees. How'd it look? Did it look better that time? As bad as I hate to do it, it's so beautiful. Now's the time to cut into it. As much. Thanks for bringing me back to the educated world. As bad as I hate to do it. As bad. My redneck just wants to come out. As bad as I hate, as much. God. My hillbilly. I would last like 5 minutes with HR.